If you were no longer affected by the judgment of others and you stopped judging yourself, would you make different choices? Why make choices in your life based on judgments instead of on your awareness of what would create the life and living you desire? Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here is the host of Inspired Choices Radio Show, Possibilities Coach Christine McIver. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on A2Zen.fm.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, whether you're joining us live or you're listening in the replay. I'm grateful for you being here. We've got a great show for you tonight, an amazing guest that I'm so excited to share with you, all of our listeners, and also to learn lots more about her. She's a pretty fun lady who's doing something really different in the world, and I love that. So we are going to be speaking with Sara Bradford, and the topic tonight is the community dump, the uncleansing of you. So before I get Sara in there, I just want to let you know that last week's show, if you missed it, it was called Is Your Light Too Bright? I really had a lot of fun on that show, talking about being different and talking about standing up and being all of you, even when other people cannot receive all of who you be, and how it's not a wrongness, how it can actually be one of the greatest contributions in the world. So before we get to our show, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. If this is the first time you're tuning in, I am a possibilities coach, and I work with individuals and businesses to create the things that they desire in their life, more possibilities, whether it's more joyful relationships, their businesses growing, whether it's having more communion with their body, whatever it is that you're looking to really step forward in your life. This is something I love to do. I love to work with other people. I am an Access Conscious certified facilitator, a possibility coach, as I said, energy healer, a radio show host, producer, and the owner of this radio station. How does it get any better than that? I also build websites, and as I said, I coach people in businesses. I have a number of different programs, and I have a program called Beyond the BS Business Studies. We are having so much fun in that business class, and the changes that are happening for the students are phenomenal. I also have a program called Divorce with Dignity. If you're trying to end a relationship and you'd like to have some ease with that, that program certainly contributes to many people moving forward beyond the relationship that has now concluded. And I also do the Access Consciousness classes. I have a bars class actually coming up October the 23rd, and as well I do the foundation class. If you're interested in any of those programs, please connect with me at inspiredchoices.ca, and you can see all of my offerings there. So tonight, the community dump, the uncleansing of you. What are you ready to dump? What is the uncleansing of you? Tonight, my guest, Sara Bradford, who is a culinary nutritionist whose passion is to get you excited about real food by introducing you to her indulgent yet healthy food methods. If you're a woman tired of nutrition bullshit, and don't mind a little sailor mouth, then Sara's bullshit-free nutrition resource may just be what you are looking for. Sara is the owner of Nourish Real Food, and she is passionate about cocktails and duck fat, and as she is as passionate, that just cracks me up, Sara. She is as passionate about cocktails and duck fat as she is about green smoothies. Because real food should be delicious and guilt-free. My giggle button's going, She considers herself a culinary, no BS nutritionist who creates food and life programs for women tired of nutrition BS. Her signature program, the Community Dump, is a series of seasonal and specialized online group cleanses that make things in the kitchen more fun, less painful, more delicious, and less boring. She resides in my hometown, Stratford, Ontario, with her 2 kids and her ridiculously large Les Croissants collection. You can find her at nourishrealfood.com, and her latest upcoming program, nourishrealfood.com/fall-dump 2016. Sara, welcome to my crazy show.
Thank you, Christine, for having me. I love it when you start off laughing. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Hey, yeah, you're in the right place if you like to laugh.
I sure do.
So I have to give a shout out to my dear friend and colleague, Carol Glover. She sent me an email, and the email had recipes about chocolate, first of all, in it, which she knows me so well. And she said, you must connect with Sara. And, you know, Carol is a pretty laid-back lady, so when she tells me I must. So I did.
Aw, Carol, thank you. Aw.
Oh my God, I love her. I love her comment. She said, "It almost makes me want to spend time in the kitchen." That's a friggin' miracle. That's hilarious.
I have heard that before. So
have you?
Thank you so much for. Oh yes, thank you so much for having me on. This is a lot of fun. I'm just excited to be here to share with people, you know, the experience of how food can be. You know, like creating food can be not a torturous experience, but actually fun and calm and exciting and delicious. So
fantastic. I have a ton of questions that are popping in my head right now, which is what usually happens before I get started. So, you know, it's interesting. We had a show earlier today, another host on the channel, she said, P.S., you're not a bear. And it was talking about, you know, we don't need to go into hibernation at this time of year and really change, you know, take everything into our bodies and change our bodies. And I really would love to hear your take on the whole, you know, hibernation, the whole thing that occurs in our hemisphere where, you know, a lot of us, you know, we buckle down and we just start, a lot of people start changing their bodies based on, you know, it's wintertime and so on. Also, you know, when I went to your website, I've got to tell you, your website and what you do is so different. It's so unique, and it's in my point of view, it's a good different. But it was a little kind of like I was sitting there going, I don't really 100% get all of this. So why don't we start out with, let's talk about this program and you know, like when did you get started in doing all of this work? Is this something you went right from high school doing, you know, into college or something, or did this evolve?
Well, I mean, I've always been interested in food and leaned more on the, I suppose, the holistic kind of end of things, just because of the way I was raised. I was raised on real food. You know, I was a kid that was showing up with lunches that included salads and soups and homemade brown bread sandwiches, and you know, kids were begging me to trade my, you know, like my homemade cookies for their wagon wheels and whatever, and the grass was always greener. But even at the time, I recognized that what I had was a good thing. And then when I went away to school, I studied photojournalism, which interestingly enough, I've come back to fully in my business. But at the time, I just knew that I wanted to travel. And as I was traveling, I spent the world, you know, I traveled the world, and everywhere I went, I cooked for people and I took care of people. And I always had sort of a home remedy for whatever anyone, for their cat or for their kid or for themselves. And I always tied in food somehow. There was always some kind of, you know, food element to everything I did. And I was a vegetarian for many years. I'm not now, but it almost forced me to learn how to cook. And I was sort of a joke growing up in my family because I didn't know how to make anything. Like I burnt toast, you know, they would laugh at me and pretend I didn't know how to boil water, which I kind of didn't. And it's interesting because it soon became my life. But at a pretty young age, I was, you know, in my late teens, I got heavily involved in food because I always enjoyed the culinary experience right from the get-go. And so it took me a while to get into the nutrition thing. I had both of my babies before I went away to school. But after getting out of nutrition school, I still didn't, you know, leap right in. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, so I actually helped run this organic farm and rural learning center for a few years, and saw clients sort of intermittently here and there. But it always came back to food and food skills and getting people passionate about creating food and getting kids passionate about creating food. And it became so apparent to me how what was really missing was this ability, the abilities that you need to make very basic things in the kitchen and to enjoy it, because I think that was the missing piece that I witnessed everywhere I went, and any food program that I saw. You could get it. You were given a list of things that you could and could not eat, but you weren't told how to create them or what recipes to use. And at that point, I was already creating recipes like mad. So, not really creating recipes at the time, but whipping things up in the kitchen. And eventually, I started a blog, and that's kind of where all this started.
Cool. Wow. That's so cool that how it all evolved. I mean, and I love the idea that you were really not much of a cook when you were younger.
No.
And you've evolved in it. And it's so funny, Sarah, because it's not that I can't cook, okay? I cooked a lot when I was growing up. I mean, Sarah happens to know some of my relatives, some of my nieces and nephews, and so she knows that, which is really wild, which that I came from a really family, and I kind of have this feast or famine thing that goes on with my cooking. Like, I'll either eat 2 scrambled eggs for dinner, or I'll make enough of a meal to feed 20 people. And
right.
it's this place where it's like, I don't want to, I'm honestly, if somebody could just cook for me every day, I would really appreciate that. And I'm a good cook, but I'm just so tired of it. I'm bored with it, and I'm like, ugh. So what would you say to people like me out there that are in this place of, I've done it for so long, I'm tired of it, or it's just me, single people that don't have, like I've had kids and stuff, but they're not at home on a regular basis.
Food apathy is huge, and I think that it's a major contributor to, the kitchen downfall. They say that there's a statistic out there that the average North American home takes 8 minutes to cook dinner. And to me, that is shocking, but to me, when I first heard that, it's shocking, but the more I've worked with families, I realize that it's not. And it's especially hard to cook for yourself. I'm a single mom now, and when my kids aren't here, I have a hard time getting inspired in the kitchen. And I think it just comes down to, creating simplicity. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that you can make really simple, beautiful foods with just only a few ingredients. It doesn't have to be fancy. And I don't know, you learn. The one thing I try to incorporate a lot in the programs I run is mindful eating. And mindful eating is, this is a whole topic unto itself, but the practice of mindful eating is really appreciating every single morsel that you are putting into your mouth. And unfortunately, especially if we're on our own, I think people they don't tend to chew. They tend to get in front of the TV or their iPad or their smartphone or even a book can be distracting, and they remain distracted through the entire experience. So not only are they not really tasting or experiencing the texture of what they're eating, but they're not digesting it properly either. And I have to admit, there is something to eating with other people. I mean, it actually physically helps digestion. There are hormones released in the body that actually help you digest food when you are eating with others. It's the one thing I say to people, like, don't be distracted when you're eating, but the exception is other people. The exception is your loved ones, unless, of course, you're fighting with them. And then it's not a good thing for digestion at all. But
you're literally making me sick. Please go away while I eat.
Well, you know what? If you're in a fight with your husband, for example, or someone at the table, and you are really upset, you're actually better off not eating. It will shut down your digestive system completely, and it puts you in a different state. So your body goes to working on running from that bear, or the fighting that fight or flight place that you found yourself in. And it literally shuts down your digestive system. You're better to take deep breaths and calm your experience down before you put anything into your mouth. And I never tell people not to eat. That's the one exception. The issue, I guess, is when you feel that chronically, and then you have to still eat. But
okay, that's when you call me for my divorce dignity program, and then we contact Sarah so you can cleanse properly.
Right,
Sarah, we might have another business we could spin off.
Right.
Okay, we're going to go for our first break, and I'm going to catch my breath. Oh, my God, this was so much fun. All right, so you are listening to Inspired Choices Radio with my wonderful guest, Sara Bradford, and tonight we're talking about the community dump, the uncleansing of you. When we get back, Sarah's going to bring us more insight, and I really want to hear about how this program works. So please, everyone, stick around. We will be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on the past or what others think. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire in this moment? By tuning into Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to create the life and living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show.
What if you really do change molecules by your interaction with them? What if the change you've been looking for is right before your eyes? What if the uncomfortableness that comes with difference could be fun? What if the closed-minded people of the world no longer determined our world? What if gratitude trumps judgment every time? What if your kindness healed the world? What if the earth is asking for your help? And what if you had the resources to give it? This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Picasso, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Aristotle all knew to be true. Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. What if there are no dumb questions, or any question too large? What if you being you are the gift and the change this world requires? Is now the time? For more questions to create a change in your world, sign up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. My gift to you, beingyouclass.com.
This is Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program today, please call toll-free in the U.S. 815-880-8255, TALK, or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us. Our Skype name is a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Okay, thank you for sticking around, everyone. We are talking about the community dump, the uncleansing of you, and my guest, Sara Bradford. She is a fun lady doing nutrition differently. So, Sarah, talk to us about the actual the dump that you do. This is a fall program, correct?
So I run the community dump a number of times through the year. I have seasonal versions, and that they were the ones that were originally created when I decided to give this cleansing thing a go, which actually started because I was seeing a lot of my friends and clients, decide to do a cleanse in January, for example, and they were, heading to the health food store or wherever and pulling kits off the shelves and deciding to do juice cleanses when there was 4 feet of snow outside. And I just recognized very quickly that people were doing things in not even in an unhealthy way, but sometimes in a really dangerous way. And I'd always had this kind of idea in the back of my head that it would be really fun to run a cleanse, something like a cleanse, but to do it properly and to do it as a group, because I really enjoyed running group programs at that point, and I recognized the power that community had. And it started off just in a basement with 15 people getting together for this. At the time, it was a 3-week cleanse, and we ended it with a potluck, and it was a really good learning experience the first time round. And there was such a great calling for it to run again in the spring that I decided to run it again. And then by the time the fall hit, I knew I was onto something. And this was 5 years ago now. It's certainly boomed like crazy since then. But in the fall, I recognized that it was so different compared to the winter and the spring. And I really wanted to celebrate the harvest. So the foods changed, the recipes changed, the way I ran the program changed. And then things started to evolve from there. I took the program online, and I started really designing the cleanses to be specialized for the seasons. And the fall one in particular, I think I have a soft spot for the fall beyond any of the other ones, because I just find that the fall is such a it's such a time of transition, and people tend to get really wired. It's just kind of the way it is with the weather changing and the windy, suddenly it gets windy, and people start getting really stressed and anxious because it's really busy. And even though they're being thrown back into a routine and schedule, sometimes keeping that schedule can create another level of stress that you're not used to. And then I think also coming out of the summer, we're sort of wound up like tops, which I think we're supposed to be in the summer. We're supposed to be kind of outside and enjoying the sunshine, especially in Canada, or where the part of the world that we live in, because the summers are so short. And then all of a sudden fall hits and it's completely different, and we just it's like we don't know, our brains and our hearts haven't caught up to our bodies yet, or whatever. And it's really an important time to nourish ourselves and prepare the body and the mind for winter. Because what happens in the winter, you were bringing up the whole bear hibernation thing. There's definitely something to that. And pardon?
Right.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, right. So, yeah, there's definitely something to that. And I think people tend to feel like they're doing something wrong if they all of a sudden decide they want to retreat. But it's actually a natural thing for us to do. The nights get longer, the days get shorter, the weather gets cooler, we start reflecting on our lives, we start kind of going inwards, we start reading books. I mean, I think it's really, really important, and I think that's what makes Canadians so flippin' awesome, because we go through these intense changes annually, and all these transitions bring new possibilities and new learning experience, and if we listen to what our body needs at that time, then I think that it as far as health goes, it only increases our health tenfold by listening to what we need. So there's a reason why we suddenly start craving root vegetables, and we suddenly start wanting to kind of ground into the earth, and we want to kind of release some of that excess from summer, but not in like a crazy detox stripping way like you do in the spring when you're dying to get rid of all that sort of build up from winter. It's a different feeling. And I find also it's really important to get your digestive system in proper working order, because I think in the summer we tend to eat lighter, sort of watery foods that are easier to digest. But in the fall, because of the types of foods we begin to crave, it's really easy to get bogged down and kind of overeat and eat too much bread and pasta and things like that. But if we really listen to what our bodies need and learn how to chew properly and really take care of ourselves and pay attention to our digestive systems and get it in good order for the winter, so then when we start introducing these heavier foods, our body can digest it, which is awesome. And then we have all these beautiful foods that are being harvested right now, and particularly now that fall has hit, sort of more squash vegetables and root vegetables and kale. So we still have those, those dark leafy bitter greens that are still kind of cutting some of the richness from some of the other foods, and it's really a time to build as opposed to strip. So even though it's called a quote cleanse, and this one is particularly focused on Ayurveda, because in Ayurveda the fall is the traditional time to cleanse. It's not really a cleanse in the sense that you're reducing and getting rid of toxins. It's more about supporting your body so that it's doing things in a natural way and it's healing and supportive. So.
Wow, I could listen to you for hours. Like, honestly, You know, I've heard people talk about food many, many times. You have definitely got a different flavor to the way that you see things. I've got a couple of questions for you. You mentioned way at the beginning, just when we came back from break, you mentioned about cleansing in a harmful way. How do people sometimes do that?
Well, first of all, they don't cleanse with the seasons. So, you know, our bodies are at certain times of year are meant to build. And what I mean by build is sort of build up like a layer of protection so that your body's doing what it needs to do for your immune system, et cetera. When you introduce something like, you know, green juices when it's really, really cold outside, it does the opposite. It actually is provides a reducing quality to the body, and that can be harmful in the sense that people tend to lose their ability to sort of fight infection, and they start getting cold, and it affects their hormones, and it changes the way the way you move and the amount of energy that you feel. And so not just that, but I think beyond food, because I really believe that you can do most of your, quote, cleansing with food, people start to introduce a lot of supplements, and supplements they don't really understand, and they don't really work with a practitioner. They sort of do it on their own. And there's a lot of herbs out there that are amazing and powerful, but they're powerful. So you have to recognize that even though a lot of foods have power as well, they tend to be a lot safer than herbs and supplements that you may or may not realize are doing damage. I've done a lot of cleanses in the past. I've experimented on myself quite a lot, especially since I studied nutrition. And I've had cleanses that have made me feel incredibly good, and have really altered my experience going forward. And I have been on cleanses where it has done the opposite. And it is really, it's put me back months. It's made me feel, it doesn't make you just feel like, you know, like literal caca when you're, you know, on the toilet and you're like, you know, you're feeling cold and you're feeling like crap, but it continues for months afterwards. It strips away that protective layer that you need. And I started sort of pinpointing when I would feel a certain way after a certain time. And it was always very connected to the season that I was in. So this is one of the other reasons why I really became passionate about running these seasonal cleanses. I could run a quote cleanse and run the same one 4 or 5 times a year, but it is just such a ridiculous thing to do because the foods that not only we crave but that we need, and usually cravings, if they're healthy cravings, they're usually correct. It's not correct if you're craving like cookies and beer.
What?
But
shit, I fail.
Maybe sometimes it is psychologically, but
classic fail.
Well, and I'm really a big believer in the indulgence meets nourishment, and what I mean by that is, you know, I don't think that we have to starve ourselves or eat food that's yucky, that to make ourselves feel good. I believe that everyone deserves to have balance in their life, and sometimes balance means you have a couple glasses of wine at the end of the week, and you have a piece of chocolate, and you have whatever, and you don't work out, or I don't know, whatever it is. But you know, it is about like having those little indulgences, and also, and this is the thing where I take it the next step further, it's about taking those things that normally you think are naughty and making them nourishing. So it's taking a meal that typically you would think is, you know, comfort food, but like bad comfort food, and making it good comfort food. And it's incredible how easy it is to take. You know, when I first started recipe developing, I'd always whip things up in the kitchen, but I'd never really written them down. And then I started experimenting with that. And then I started taking like traditional recipes that I'd sort of grown up with, or like that kind of dishes my mom would make. And I would just take them and make them, like, inject all the healthy ingredients into them. And it's amazing how good and tasty you can make food and have it still be quite good for you. But I don't think people understand that. I think they associate.
We don't.
We don't. Like, it's all or nothing.
We don't
it's
understand.
Like, I'm eating a salad with no dressing, or I'm eating mac and cheese. But it's so easy to combine those two experiences and make it delicious, wholesome, nourishing, easy to digest, all those things. And
fabulous.
So, like, that's one of the things that made me also passionate about the recipe developing for the community dumps, was because, a lot of people have food allergies, and a lot of people feel really deprived when they suddenly can't eat something like gluten, for example. And it was really quite a mission for me. It was a passionate mission for me to create food or recipes that made people happy, even though they felt like they couldn't eat anything.
Right.
So.
Oh my gosh, I have more questions, but we're going to go for our next break.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is going so fast, damn it. When we get back, what I would really like to talk about is what makes, really tell us about your actual cleanse. I would like some quote unquote meat. I'm really being a funny ass tonight. I'd really like some meat about your cleanse.
Sure.
And I'd also like to talk about what occurs for people emotionally when they're on a cleanse, because it can affect all of our bodies. So just to put that out there. Mm-hmm. So everybody stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to be talking with Sara Bradford, the community dump, the uncleansing of you. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on the past or what others think. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire in this moment? By tuning into Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to create the life and living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour, and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that, when run, assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator, to schedule a private session, or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program today, please call toll-free in the U.S. 815-880-8255, TALK, or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us. Our Skype name is a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are here with myself, Christine McIver, and my wonderful guest, Sara Bradford. And tonight we are talking about the community dump, the uncleansing of you. Now, one of the things that many of my listeners will know, Sara, is that I actually work with a body of work called Right Body for You. And that body of work helps to teach us to listen to our bodies. And I've been doing that work now for a couple of years. It's phenomenal. It's an amazing body of work. And what you're offering tonight, the information that you're talking about, I really feel like it's going to be a huge compliment, at least for me, to working all of that awareness and that information together, because I still do this thing, especially being a single person, right? It's like I feed more food to the garbage than I feed to myself. You know, I go to the grocery store and I'm like, I should. And I buy all this stuff. And then, I am tired or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I end up going, I don't know what the hell I should eat, right? And so I love the idea of what you're presenting. And I would love to now jump into Tell us about your cleanse. Like, specifically, let's talk about the fall cleanse. What does that look like?
Okay.
And do I need to go out and buy a whole, $500 worth of different types of food in order to participate?
Okay, well, firstly, the most important thing to know about the community dump is the community aspect. So the very first thing that happens when people join, they receive all the materials, which there are a ton, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. But you join the community, and it is a Facebook group, but I've been running these Facebook groups now for 5 years, before there really was even Facebook groups, and I have a very rich, very beautiful community happening there, and honestly, it is everything. And even to the point where if you come home and you're like, I just bought all this food at the grocery store and I don't know what the hell to do with it all, there'll be people jumping in like, do this and do that if you need help, or let's have a potluck, or let's food prep together, blah blah blah. So the community is a really important aspect of it. So then once things get started, it's usually about 4 days before actual day one begins, and I upload a video. It used to be a live webinar, but now I do a live Facebook event so that it can be even more interactive, and then they can just watch the video ahead of time and they can write down the questions they have. And it just kind of visually goes through and explains the process. They get to know me a little bit. It's about 45 minutes, and it's just a different way of presenting the information that I think a lot of people appreciate. And then people have 3 days to do their prep. Now, the way it's presented, you get quite a few recipes, but it's presented as a meal plan. So if you are the type of person that needs to be told what to do and needs to know what to buy and needs to know exactly what your step-by-step how to go through this experience, then that is there for you. And it's really, really cool that way. In Ayurveda, there's something that's traditionally used to feed people. It's called khichdi, and it's like this congee of delicious. It's delicious. It's full of a lot of digestive spices and herbs and rice and lentils, and it's really, really tasty. And honestly, I let people decide that if they want for the entire 10 days, they can just eat that if they want and just switch up the vegetables they add to it. So it can be as simple as or as complicated as you want. Now, there are some people that have been doing my cleanses now. Some people have been doing almost every single one for 5 years. So I have an amazing following, and they come back and they use it to reset. And there's such a rich part of the community as well, because they have so much to offer, so much wisdom and experience. And they like to take the recipes and kind of create their own. So the other thing I do is I kind of teach people how to meal plan as well. So if they look at the meal plan and they look at the recipes and say, this doesn't work for me, then they have a template to work from, and they a little training so that they can kind of create something themselves that makes sense for their lives. That may make, for example, maybe they hate red lentils and they will never eat lentils in their lives. Well, then they have to, rearrange things. So, it can be as simple or as complicated as you want. The exciting, yes, you have to buy, you possibly have to buy groceries that you don't necessarily have, but they're mostly vegetables. So it gives you an experience to try new things, because I think a lot of people have never tried fennel before, or they've never tried, cumin or whatever it is. So the fun thing is that,
that'd be a yes.
Dishes that they never. So, and the other cool thing, and I get this feedback a lot, is that people end up incorporating these recipes into their lives throughout the year. And that's exciting for me, because that tells me that they're starting to introduce real foods on a regular basis, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, whatever it is. They're starting to, and everyone's coming in at different phases. Some people come in and already eat very similar to how the cleanse is set up, depending on the season. And they're there for the community, and they're there for the support, and they're there for the other extra stuff. So you get a cookbook and a meal plan that's very beautifully laid out. All the photography and the recipes are created by me. And it's fairly beautifully designed, in my opinion. And then you also get a guidebook. And the guidebook changes completely based on what season you're in. But in the fall one, it really explains Ayurveda cleansing. It really explains what exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And it really breaks things down. It even talks about what foods you're eating and why they're good for that particular dump. And we go into talking about a lot of other dumping too. It's not, I don't talk about it as much in the guide as I do once the cleanse starts. But, you know, a dump, the reason why I say dump, I mean, I'm a smart ass, so that's why I call it the community dump. But it's not just about dumping food or poo or whatever it is. It's about dumping all sorts of other shit from your life. And people carry a lot of shit with them. And sometimes people come into the dump, and especially the fall one because of the time of year, and they end up dumping a lot. It ends up becoming more of an emotional thing than it is a physical thing or a food thing. So I'll get back to that in a second. But the other thing with the fall dump is you get another guide. It's a self-care guide, and it introduces all of these traditional Ayurveda self-care techniques. And they're really cool because they're often things that people don't even think of as self-care or think of as a thing. And then they start, you know, dry brushing for the first time. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it becomes part of their daily routine. And I think that's really exciting. And the self-care techniques, the self-care guide talks about other forms of self-care. And self-care is a huge part of the fall dump. Because of that spinny, windy, anxious time of year, it's more important than ever that you establish a self-care routine. You establish the importance of taking care of yourself instead of everybody else before winter hits, so that you don't like hit January and you're running on empty, because you're not just physically running on empty of food. You're running on, you know, that self-love piece is not there. And all of a sudden you're getting sick all the time and you're not able to take care of all those people that depend on you. So self-care is a really big, big part of it. And then something else I introduce in the fall dump is a lot of yoga. And some people have never done yoga in their lives. So it's kind of an interesting thing because everyone's coming in at the same at different levels. But the cool thing about the yoga guide and the movement guide is that it focuses on basic poses for everybody. And it gives a different pose for each day that's purely for digestion, which is digestion, I mentioned, is a huge part of the fall dump as well. So I encourage people to incorporate yoga into the fall dump. However, even if it's just doing that one pose a day, that's really good to get your digestive system fired up, then that's better than nothing, obviously. And so people take these guides, they read it all, they join the group, and then day one starts. And, you know, everyone's, again, at a different, you know, some people had to go away for the weekend, so they're just finally prepping on that morning or whatever it is. But because of the support of the group, it's very encouraging. And then starting right from the beginning, I send a daily email, but day one, the emails get a little more reflective and a little more intense, and they include a daily affirmation and a daily form of movement and different recipes in case people want to try different things, and usually just kind of reflection of where you may be on that day. And that's a really, really important part for, I would say, the daily emails are as big as the community group and the recipes. People really depend on them because I think it's sort of surprising when they wake up on day 5, for example, and they want to tear their husband's head off, and they can't understand why. And then they, you know, they read the email and it's like, today you may be over the physical part of the symptom with the withdrawal, but today a lot of emotional detoxing will begin. And it just kind of takes people through that process.
So you're guiding people, you know what each of these pieces of food or each day's food is going to be changing and contributing. And so you're guiding us as we go through the cleanse.
Absolutely. And I'm on the group constantly and answering questions, and I'm 100% there through the whole thing, and reminding people to, you know, check out their just kind of keep people in check because, you know, there's a lot that can happen.
Wow. So you're holding their hand. You're holding their hand the whole way. That's phenomenal. Okay, we have to take our last break.
Oh,
we have to take our last break, and then when we get back, I know, right? When we get back, Sarah actually has a surprise for all of our listeners. So if you're listening, stick around. You don't want to miss this. And we'll wrap up with any last thoughts that Sarah has to share. I have a feeling this is not going to be Sarah's last time on our station, but that's just a hint that I have. So if you're really intrigued by this conversation, please stick around. And of course, please go check out her website, nourishrealfood.com, and you'll see the information there about the dumps. She's got amazing recipes, a blog, all sorts of phenomenal information. So please do check that out. But stick around because we're not quite done with Sarah yet. So you're listening to Inspired Choices here with Sara Bradford, and we'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on the past or what others think. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire in this moment? By tuning into Inspired Choices radio show with possibilities coach Christine McIver, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to create the life and living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices radio show.
What if you really do change molecules by your interaction with them? What if the change you've been looking for is right before your eyes? What if the uncomfortableness that comes with difference could be fun? What if the closed-minded people of the world no longer determined our world? What if gratitude trumps judgment every time? What if your kindness healed the world? What if the earth is asking for your help? And what if you had the resources to give it? This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Picasso, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Aristotle all knew to be true. Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. What if there are no dumb questions, or any question too large? What if you being you are the gift and the change this world requires? Is now the time? For more questions to create a change in your world, sign up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. My gift to you, beingyouclass.com.
This is Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program today, please call toll-free in the U.S. 815-880-8255, TALK, or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us. Our Skype name is a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to talk even faster, Sarah, because I came up with more questions. I've got to get through this so fast. Okay, so we're going to get down to the logistics of this amazing community dump that you're doing. When does the community dump begin?
The prep for the community dump starts a Thursday after Canadian Thanksgiving because I don't think anyone wants to do a cleanse over Thanksgiving. And a lot of people maybe will feel ready for that after they've sort of indulged over that weekend. So the 13th, which is the Thursday, the prep sort of begins. The video is released. It's really the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of people do the prep. And then the Monday, which is the 17th, it starts, and it's 10 days. And it's only 10 days. Even though it may seem like a long time, it's really not.
Okay. So the prep begins on the 13th, October the 13th, and the actual dump, the actual cleanse begins on the 17th. So it's October the 17th through the 26th.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we've got the when. Now, and how long. Now, tell me, how am I, the average person, going to feel during the dump, during the cleanse, and after the cleanse?
Okay, well, I will tell you that everyone's experience is different, but people often will experience different physical symptoms depending on what they're withdrawing from. So I find that's where a lot of the emotional pieces come in, because people will get over the physical, desire to eat sugar and drink coffee after about 3 days. And they may experience some headaches and some cravings, but then the emotional cravings kind of kick in. And so the first 5 days, depending on how well you eat initially, 'cause some people, go from craft dinner to doing the dump, it can be overwhelming emotionally and sometimes physically. The food prep can be challenging if you've never sliced a vegetable in your life. But what I encourage people is to take what they can from it. So sometimes people will do it the first time and be like, that was challenging, but it was good. And the second time they come back and they'll be like, I'm an awesome rock star at this, and I know what I'm doing now. The last 5 days of the cleanse, most people just feel flippin' awesome. And by the end, I would say that 75 to 80% of the people that have ever done the dump, the statistics might even be higher now, they come back and they do more, and they sometimes do many more.
Wow.
So it's just the beginning of the journey. That's the thing. And I try to encourage people to remember that, even if the only thing they take away from it is they give up Diet Coke, or they change the type of bread they eat, or maybe they discover that bread really makes them feel like crap and they give it up for a while, or whatever it is. If they take like one thing out of it, then that is sometimes life altering. And the emotional piece is also a big deal, recognizing not only that you emotionally are attached to sugar, but sometimes people go really deep and figure out why. Or they start dumping other things in their life, like suddenly they'll clean out their closets and be like, oh, I just had like a huge clutter dump. Or they recognize some toxic people in their life, because sometimes they're introducing things meditatively that let them kind of process all of that. So it's a really all-encompassing program. What's included is massive, and I think that's why people do it over and over again, just because they get so much each time, but it usually changes. So it's pretty exciting. And to be honest, I go through withdrawal when the dump's over, because it's just magic seeing people transform and people taking care of themselves. And it's really beautiful. Like, it makes me very emotional, and I get very attached. And sometimes I have to have up to 100 people on it at once.
Wow.
And everyone really connects. It's crazy. Like, and people meet up in towns and have potlucks, or they do food prep together. I mean, it really builds this really cool kind of community. It's kind of taken a life of its own, to be honest.
That's awesome.
Point.
Sarah, how amazing are you, and how amazing are you with being committed to changing the world through this? You really are changing people's lives. You know that, right?
Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah, you are. Well, when we're willing to stand up and say, you know what, I think this is really brilliant, and just stand with it, not from a boastful place, from a knowing place, we change the world. Yeah. And I'm so glad that Carol introduced me to you. Like, holy moly, how lucky did I get, and how lucky did all of my listeners get in hearing this? And, a lot of people are going to be listening to this show after the fact, because they're not listening live, and that's okay. But I want to share with them, because we've only got about a minute and a half left. You have got this dump coming up, but for all of the listeners that are listening to the show live or in the replay, you are going to offer them a special price if they join your nutritional dump. And so what is the regular price of joining the dump?
It's $147, except for alumni. If you've ever done one, you come back and do any other one, it's 40% off, so it's a lot cheaper. But the initial time you do it is $147, and then $117 was my early bird price, but I will offer that to the listeners if they call in and get the special link from me for the next 2 days. And also, there is a free 3-day dump if people want to try it on my website at nourishrealfood.com, and they can just click on it and kind of get a little mini version of it to see if they're interested in trying it. So.
Okay, cool. And so you are offering them a special price if they contact you. They need to email you. So they need to email you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Right, that they've heard the show. So it's SARA at nourishrealfood.com. It will be in the replay link if you go to it, and you're offering that to them for only $117.
Yes, and for the next 2 days. Yeah.
Awesome. You got 2 days, guys. Get out there. Okay, Sarah, we're wrapping up. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thank
really
you so much for having me.
What we shared. Oh, my God, it was amazing. We'll talk again really soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Radio Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on A2Zen.fm. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.